Hey everybody, this is Brett Ingram and this is the optYOUmize podcast, the show that helps entrepreneurs build their dream business and dream life. Today we're talking with Drewbie Wilson, founder of Call the Damn Leads. He's generated over 13 million in sales, dropped over 100 pounds, and is a best-selling author who's living proof that nothing is impossible. I'm super excited about this because I think he's such an inspiration and we can all benefit from hearing his story. So with that, welcome Drewbie and thanks a lot for joining us.
Brent, thank you so much for having me, man. I'm truly honored and grateful. And really, I want to thank the listener for donating a little bit of their time with us today. It's their most valuable asset. So if they're going to hang out and listen, I'm excited to share a whole lot of fun stuff with them.
That's fantastic. So I know you're going to be sharing some amazing tips with us, and I have a bunch of questions that I want to ask you, but I've got to start off with your background. So can you share with us a little bit about your journey from where you started to how you achieved such amazing results, both personally and professionally?
Yeah, Brett, absolutely. So, too long didn't read version. If you want the whole story, I've got 3 books. You can go and find them on Amazon or on our website. But the truth is, man, I grew up kind of a lower class kid. My mom was a single mom. My dad was in and out. We had drugs, addiction, all the excuses I could use for reasons I was not successful. And for a while in my life, they were true. I let those, roadblocks keep me from being the person I am today. And along the way, I had to learn how to control what I ate and how much effort I put in, because I ballooned up to over 300 pounds at one point, and I wasn't happy, I wasn't fulfilled, I wasn't getting the attention that I desired in life. And so I went on that journey, which led me to meeting a beautiful young lady who became my wife, and we had a baby. And then I fell into some of those old bad habits from comfort. And really, as I grew up, I was always a hustler. I grew up in the streets selling dope. Realized as I met that beautiful young lady, had a baby, I didn't want to be dead or in prison, because that money don't last. And so, again, I've had this crazy journey of putting in the work, learning hard lessons from making a ton of mistakes, and ultimately having the blessing of a lot of really smart people choosing to pour into me because they saw some sort of greatness, some sort of light. And that's the one thing that I've really learned along the way, one of many. But when you're pouring into the cups of those around you, you're just making room for people to pour back into you. So that's why I'm so grateful to be able to pour out on a podcast like this, Brett. You give me a platform to share some of these stories, and my goal is that if just one person hears this today and they make a difference in their life, that butterfly effect will change the future. So, it's so fun to get that opportunity to share the journey, and I hope that I can give it justice with just a little bit of time we have today.
Yeah, well, obviously that's an inspirational story, and what's amazing about it is that, you obviously didn't have much going for you in terms of the objective things that we look at initially, right? But you still chose to make it work because you're dealt the hand you're dealt, and you can do what you can fold. You can say, well, you know what, my life is hard, so I'm just going to let it overrun me, or you could say, I don't accept that. I might not have the advantages some other people had. I might have a much harder road, but I'm going to make it work anyway. And so that's a testament to your character and your ability. But I also love the fact that you mentioned, it's amazing the power we can have on other people when we know that someone believes in us. Sometimes we need that because we don't have it ourselves. And when we get that externally, that helps us find it internally. And then we all want to pay that back, because you get to a point where you recognize, wow, what did they see? They could have easily just turned their back on me. They could have just said, you know what? Oh, this guy's like, he's got all these problems, and, that's just not worth the trouble. But when somebody spends the time to invest in us, and it gives us that sort of that feeling of value, I think that's super important, and it does have that butterfly effect. So I've heard you say that personal branding has actually changed your life. Can you give us a sense of how exactly that is the case?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the quotes that I love, and I like to use a lot of quotes because even though they're real cliched, there's a reason that they get repeated over and over. But one of those quotes is from Jay-Z, and it says, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a business man." And what I love about that is the representation that you are the brand. It doesn't matter if you play for a sports team or you're a famous actor in a movie. You are the brand that people are supporting, and you're representing some bigger movement, some bigger culture. But at the end of the day, it comes back to you, whether that's personal or professional. When we're growing up, you know, our brand is what people say about us. It's, hey, he's cool, he's hip, he's great at this, he's an awesome artist, he's a great skateboarder, he's a freaking jerk, and nobody likes that guy because he's so mean to everyone. You know, that brand stands out. That's what people say about you when you're not in the room. That's a Jeff Bezos quote. And so as you get older, professionally, I start to look at people do business with people, not necessarily logos or corporations. Honestly, a lot of people, if you ask them, they have like a distaste for corporate greed and all of these things. So they're looking for that individual. And even if you go to like a Nike store, it's still the person helping you in the store who you ultimately make the decision to work with one way or the other. Because, like, I don't know about you, Brett, but I've certainly walked into a store for a corporation that had the thing that I wanted and been so turned away by the person helping me that I chose not to do business with them. And so I think that branding is really important because it really just leans in on, why would someone want to work with you? Why would someone want to build a relationship with you, whether that's personally or professionally? And I just think that branding for me, leaning in on who I am, what matters to me, and being okay saying that's not for me, has really helped me narrow in and get with the right people at the right time.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful message. To your point, it's funny that you brought that up because I actually was car shopping years ago, and the brand and model of the car I wanted, I already knew, and I went in to get it, and the guy was nice, but I felt like he was trying to take advantage of me, so I didn't like the experience, and I was ready to make the deal. Like, we had talked numbers, all this other stuff, and the long story short is I was trading in a car, and I knew what it was worth, and he tried to really like cut thousands off the value. And so I said, my wife had said to me, well, listen, I'd really rather have this other car anyway. So I said, all right, I'll make a deal with you. I'll go to the other car dealership too, and I'll see how that experience goes. If that experience is better, we'll get the car you want. That experience was perfect. Start to finish, that's the car we bought. So I actually literally, with a car, turned away, didn't do business with it, even though that was the car I wanted, the brand I wanted, everything else. I didn't do business because, as you said, we do business with people. Business is relationships. And at the end of the day, whether it's a relationship with this, that, or the other thing, the personal branding thing is so important, and authenticity. People are sick of over curation. They're sick of, too much just corporate feel and look to everything. And they want to know who's behind what it is that I'm buying or what service. And when we resonate with those people, when we're authentic, we'll bring the right people to us. And, that's the same philosophy I had with the podcast. I said, when I was thinking about, how do I set this up and what do I want to do? I said, I'm just going to be me. I don't need to overthink this, because the fact of the matter is, if who I am isn't enough to resonate with an audience, then it isn't the right thing for me, because I'm not going to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. So I love that you discovered that as well. And I think that it's such a powerful message for everybody out there that the most important thing you could do is be authentic and be yourself. So well said there. So one of your guiding principles, and this is your own quote, crush the day before it crushes you. All right, I'm going to ask you, how did you develop that, and how does it apply to your daily routine and your mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was kind of starting my true journey into personal development, like really actually saying, hey, this is a thing and I believe in it, I had been married for 2-3 years, I think. My son was probably a year-ish old. And I was telling you, I had gotten comfortable. When I met my wife, I was 215 pounds. When my son was born, and, the months after that, I was floating around 285. Because pregnancy sympathy weight's a real thing. We ate Thanksgiving turkey dinners. Like, it was cold. We were just hanging out in the Midwest eating meat and potatoes. And I realized, though, that at a certain point, even though at the time I didn't have to be to work until technically 9 a.m., but I was there at 8 a.m. because I was still, like I said, always a hustler. But my body I'd start waking up at between 4:30 and 5 o'clock every day. And I would just hit the snooze button and I would ignore it until 7. And I'd get up, take my shower, go to the office, whatever. And I at one point looked at my wife and I was like, this isn't working. For whatever reason, I just feel like I need to get up and do something in the morning. And she had been telling me forever, hey, you need to go do cardio. That's the only way you're ever going to lose the weight. You can't just lift. You can't just go and ride your bike. You got to go do real cardio. And I ignored her forever because that's how husbands are. But I started I was like, I'm just going to get up and go for a walk because we had a real nice park around the neighborhood. So I was like, hey, if I go do a couple laps and come home, it'll take me 60 minutes. It's a 3.5-mile loop. You know, my whole thought originally was like 5K a day will keep the doctor away. So if I go walk a 5K, I'm burning calories, good to go, right? And at the time, I was listening to motivational podcasts just like this and finding the YouTube videos of Jim Rohn and Eric Thomas and Ed Milet and all of these different influencers that had started kind of in that 2017, 2018 phase. Gary Vee, all those guys. And I was just listening over and over while I was walking and looking for that internal thing that would go, that's what I've been missing. And there was a Jim Rohn quote, and Jim Rohn's one of my favorites of all time, but it was, either awesome. You run the day or the day runs you. And I thought, man, that's really strong because it's so easy to let every other outside influence take effect and just control what I do throughout the day. And as I was learning branding and marketing, I saw there was people that were kind of hashtagging these different phrases and quotes they had made. And I thought, well, and I can't steal Jim's quote. Like, he's an OG of OGs. They're going to call me out right away. I don't want to take anyone's stuff anyway. But how can I make that my own? And I got to thinking about it. And I was like, well, if I don't get up and crush the day first, meaning I don't get up and I don't pray, I don't focus on gratitude, I don't work out, there's a 98.99% chance I'm not going to do it later. Just truthfully. So I need to get up and crush those couple things first. And if I do that, the rest of the day probably won't be able to do anything to me. Because no matter how shitty it gets, like I'll have done the hardest things first and gotten them out of the way. And what I started saying was crush the day before it crushes you, man. And I'd look myself in the mirror when I got up at 4 a.m. and I'd be like, crush the day before it crushes you. And I would just go get to it. And I started posting these like really douchey selfies walking out at like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. when I'd go to my workout. And I'd tag the time and the temperature. And I was like, man, this feels really douchey and stupid, but I'm going to do it as a self-accountability thing. And what I found was other people started reaching out and going, hey, man, I was going to skip my workout. And I opened up social media and you were the first face staring at me going, 5 a.m., let's get to it. And so I went and did my workout and now my life has changed. And I've gotten hundreds of messages like that over the years now, but that's where it all started, was just me being overweight and unhappy saying, hey, I'm going to get up and do something to change my life, and I need that mantra to be able to say it every day, that reminder. And that's where Crush the Day Before It Crushes You started.
That's super cool. You know, I know I've found for myself as well, similar thing. If you get that momentum going early, it's easy to maintain it. It's hard to recapture it or grab it later if you, and I even see this with diet, right? If you eat a healthy breakfast, it's a lot easier to eat a healthier lunch. As soon as you have the donut for breakfast, you're like, McDonald's for lunch, whatever, you know, because the day's already gone, right? I'll start again tomorrow. And, you know, the workout, all those other things, if you develop the habits can either help you or the habits can hinder you. And if they're positive habits, they're going to make you better each and every day. And if they're unproductive habits, they're going to make you worse every day. And so I think that's such an important thing. And I also think, you know, the fact that you mentioned, you know, when you first started sharing things, social media, you were like, oh, you know, I always had that same sort of aversion. I always felt like, who cares? Like if I'm going to post this thing, like who wants to see me saying, oh, I'm getting up to work out or whatever. But it's amazing the impact that you can have on people. And sometimes you don't even know it, you know? And so that's the power of that. You didn't do that with the intention of impacting everybody else. You did it with the intention of just being self-accountable. But by sharing that and putting it out there, other people saw it and said, well, if he can do it, I got to do it too. And I think that's super important, you know, as a lesson is just that anything we're doing that's good or positive or whatever, if we share that, then you never know how many other people that could impact and help. So you've used social media a lot to really propel your success. In what ways has social media really played the role in your professional success, and what tips would you have for other people to be able to master it?
I would say the biggest role that it's played in my overall professional success is that it has allowed me to contact more people across a platform of the world that I never would have connected with locally. And in doing so, has put well over $1 million in cash into my bank account from being able to go out and do what I do best, which is just help people. And if your whole mission on this planet is to help people, which most of us at a core level, that's what we drive to do, is help people. Like, we have a job and a skill and whatever, but like ultimately we love to serve. And so to me, social media has just given me a platform to where I can share my story, and in sharing my story, it tells others what I've got going on. And if you understand social media at a psychological level, it was built so that people could creep. Like the guys that built it were trying to creep on all the girls in their school, just trying to understand, what are they doing, where are they at, what do they got going on, because they were trying to be able to be in the right place at the right time to be able to have the right conversation with these girls. Mm-hmm. And so sales and marketing is very much the same thing. I'm just trying to be in the right place at the right time with the right people, having the right conversation. And in sharing the story on social media, it's a lot more fun because people are on there to live vicariously. They're trying to escape their own story because whatever they got going on in their own life isn't interestingly enough to keep them occupied, so they're seeking out someone else. And I know this is like a weird, creepy thing to say, but this is the truth. Most people are so unhappy in their own lives that they're seeking other people's validation. That's why reality TV is so popular right now. Yeah. I say all that to say that if we know that, and we are being intentional with what we are creating and putting on social media and the stories that we are telling, stands the reason that if we tell certain stories in a certain way, we can almost predict what the outcome will be. Now, granted, that's why we love reality TV, because there's always a wicked twist at the end. But the same thing applies with your story in your life right now. People are watching you. They're watching what you have going on. They want to see, hey, I kind of know this guy. Do I like him? Do I trust him? I hear he's a coach. I hear he sells mortgages. He's a real estate agent, insurance, whatever. He's a like, it doesn't matter what you do. People are watching. They want to get to know you. They want to see if they can trust you, because inevitably people seek out tribe. They want to connect. That's why social media is so powerful, because people generally use it to connect with others who are like-minded and similar. So again, if I'm going to be really intentional about it, and I'm going to share stories that I know the people who I want to connect with are going to find value or interest in, then it stands to reason that I can build a lot of relationships. And if there's 2 billion people on social media, and I only need a very, very small fraction of them to know, like, and trust me enough to say, hey, Drewbie, here's X amount of dollars to teach me the thing that I know you're an expert in because I've been watching you for all this time. Well, man, of course it's changed my life, Brett. It's amazing how quickly that can happen, and also how long it takes of being consistent sharing those stories for people to build that trust.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I always find amazing and I love about social media, and it's got its warts, right? It's got its issues, but one of the things that I really love about it is the fact that it has democratized the idea that if you have a message, if you have a mission, if you have a skill, if you have a talent, these are all things now that you could be found without needing to go through the gatekeepers. You know, it used to be if you were a musician, you had half a dozen record companies. If you couldn't get them to want to sign your deal and give you a record deal, you weren't in the music business, no matter how talented you were. Now you can go on YouTube, you could go on, any of the platforms, post your stuff. If you're really talented, somebody will find you. And so I love the fact that it's sort of broken down all those walls. At the same time, obviously, like you said, we need to be careful too what we're putting out, and we also need to be careful how we're consuming it, because we want to make sure that we're not neglecting our own lives while we're living vicariously through other people. But I do think that it's that human element of it. One of the challenges that I had in terms of starting the podcast, and one of the reasons I actually avoided social media for so long is I'm kind of a private person. So the vulnerability element for me was challenging. I first of all didn't think, why would anybody want to know anything about me personally, right? All they really want to know is if I have business tips, right? I've been an entrepreneur for 17 years. I built multiple businesses. So they want to know like what expert business tips, and that's true, but they want to know you first. And it's that connection that brings people in that gets them to care enough to want to know the rest. And so one of the challenges that I had personally was that I felt like I had to be an expert in everything in order to be able to, and you don't. You just need to be real. You just need to be human and go through the experience together, right? We all learn, and the high tide rises all ships. So if we help each other, if we contribute to each other, I think that's the way we all win. And so I love the fact that you were had the nerve, I guess, to share your stories and all of your ideas on social media, and that you've been ultimately rewarded for that. So if we flip that a little bit, what are the common mistakes that people make in social media marketing? There's a lot of people that want to be able to build a following, or they see the dream of having influence on social media, so they set out to do it, but not everybody's able to get there. So what are the mistakes you see people make?
The biggest mistake people make when it comes to creating social media content or building their brand with social media is that they're being very selfish with the content they create, in that it's all about them. It's all about how great they are and all the amazing things they do and the skills they have and how much they make and how much they make other people. And it's very much about them in the sense of what they want you to hear, versus the greatest content creators understand that it is about the audience. People that create amazing reality TV, they don't live the life of a reality TV star, but they understand what the people who they're trying to get in front of want. And so when I'm looking at social media, and the biggest mistake people make is that they're not creating content for their audience, they're creating it for themselves. And a lot of the times the things that we like are not necessarily what the people around us like. You ever been in that situation where you're in a group of friends and you're like jamming to some music and they're like, what is this garbage? And you're going, I thought we were friends. Who are you? This is amazing. It's the same thing with the content you create on social media. If you're not making sure it's for the audience, they're going to tune out. Now, here's the flip side of that, though, is that we've been conditioned as humans to appreciate and understand the necessity for marketing and advertising. And we've actually kind of grown to love it, which is why some people who don't care about sports watch the Super Bowl only for the halftime commercials. That's all they care about. They want to be entertained by the commercials, not necessarily by the sport. And people know that, so they specifically create content for that purpose. And on social media, if you want to build your brand, you want to build your business, start creating content that's for them, not for you.
That's a really important and valuable distinction, and I think really well said, because I do agree that I think people make the mistake because as an audience member, you see that you're looking up to somebody because of what, and so you're excited about them. So then when you start to create stuff, you're like, oh, look at me, and it is the opposite, right? You need to create it for the audience so they get value, and that's what makes them say, hey, I want to know more about you. I want more information. If you're just telling me how good you are all the time, then that there's not really any value in that. It just gets tired, and
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but Ed Milet has a
no,
great
go
quote
for it.
about this. It's facts tell, stories sell. So if I just tell you all the facts about me, you're gonna go, okay. But if I tell you a really interesting story, and throughout that story, I'm kind of imparting some of the important lessons, the things that like I learned throughout that, or through what you could potentially start learning in a way that makes more sense to you to know, hey, I don't want to make the same mistake that this individual made in this story, because like that does not sound good. Or holy moly, that person did this, and this, and that's what they got. I've done that, and that before. I didn't do them in that order necessarily, but I've done all of those things. So what if I just did it that way? Would I get the same result? That creates intrigue. That's what creates emotion, which leads to them taking the motion of, how do I reach out to this person and ask them, like, that story was crazy. I have something very similar. Like, can you tell me more? How do I learn about like getting the thing that you help them with? That's the true sauce to social media, is telling stories in a way that educates and entertains the audience so that they feel like like I have to reach out to this person and ask this question.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes total sense. So, in terms of the factors in creating a compelling social media presence, obviously, one of the things that you're trying to do is create content that is story driven. Another thing is you want it to be beneficial and with the audience's benefit in mind, right? And the value to them in mind. Are there other factors about it as well?
I mean, there's a lot of little nuance. It's kind of like anything, you know, the more
Yeah.
granular you get, the more variables and the more little tweaks that you can make and become more effective and efficient. I really think about it as, for the individual who's creating the content, it's important to know who your audience is. Where are they hanging out? What kind of content do they actually enjoy? What, you know, why are they online on these platforms? What time of day are they on there and for what purpose? Because I know, as someone who leads entrepreneurs and business owners, in the morning you don't have time to spend a bunch of like reading or listening to all these things. You're busy, you're getting your day started. So I just want to hit you with some quick motivation and a reminder of like, yo, we got work to do, let's go crush it today. Because halfway through the day, when you've been putting in some work, you've already done 4 or 5 hours, it's like, whew, then I know you're probably looking for more of a little pick-me-up. Because if I was to walk by your office as a manager, instead of saying something like, what you got cooking, I might tell you a little silly funny story or make you laugh and get you energized again, because I know you're going to need that energy to get through the rest of the day. As a marketer, as a sales professional, I know that by the evening time, you've been advertised all day long, you've had to make thousands of decisions, and now you're going through decision fatigue, and you're asking yourself, what do I need to do to get the result? Because all of these decisions that I've been making up to this point aren't getting me what I want. So what's the thing that I need to do differently? And if I tell a story that just so happens to hit that emotion that you're going through at the moment in the evening, and then I give you an opportunity to take that next step by joining our program or watching this video or downloading this free tool that I have, it's more likely that you're going to do that because there's less resistance. Because you've already had to make thousands of decisions and you've been like, I know there's something I need to do different, so maybe this is it, let me try. Hopefully I explained it
And
well.
you know, yeah, actually, it's great. Because you're the first person I think I've ever spoken to that's talked about thinking about the mindset at a given moment that your audience would be in, and post the content and tailor it to where they would be at that moment, so you're meeting them where they are. I love the idea of, the quick pick me up in the morning, because you're right. Part of the reason that I went with a short form podcast as opposed to 2 hours at a shot is because I would never sit down and listen to 2 hours in the morning. If I'm driving to work or whatever it is that, I would be doing, bringing my kids to school, I can put something on for 15, 20 minutes, right? Something like that. But I'm not going to be able to sit there for 2 hours. I got work to do. And so that's sort of the idea with a daily. It's to keep it short and punchy, so that way there's value there, but at the same time it's not. And then at different points during the day, we all go through that sort of cycle where we have our moments where we're really energetic and high. We have the moments where we're a little bit fatigued or a little run down, and so we what we enjoy at those different moments and what we need at those different moments changes. So if you know your audience, like you said, you're going to know, okay, at this particular time, that particular time. And obviously you could play with that as well, because if you test different things, you'll see where you're getting the response. But I love the idea of thinking about it through a daily life cycle of where your audience is, because we all go through that. So it just makes logical sense, other than just posting whatever, whenever, because randomly you figure, oh, it'll get some traction. So that's a powerful strategy. I love that. Where do you see, so if we look ahead a little bit, where do you see social media marketing heading or evolving over the next 5 years? Do you think there'll be any changes? Will it be the same? And what do you think people will need in order to be successful?
I think it'll be completely different and exactly the same. And I know that's a paradox, but the truth is there will be new platforms. There will be new content types. There will be new strategies that exist and evolve, because humans we get bored easily. So even though right now the hot thing might be Reels and TikToks and all that, because we just want that short, punchy little dopamine, at a certain point our brains will go, we've had enough of this. Like, I need something that's a little more contextual, and I need a real storyline. I can't keep flipping every 6 seconds. It's killing me. I'm getting burnt out. So it'll shift. And I think the people who will be most successful with it as things progress is the person who starts to recognize the patterns. Because it's just like stocks and the real estate, there's patterns. You can watch when certain things start to happen and become more popular or less popular, there's a shift in that energy, and it has to go somewhere. And so the goal is to ultimately be thinking ahead of, as this dies off, what is becoming more popular? What is that thing that's starting to gain a little traction where I don't necessarily want to be the first person to do it, but how do I get into that second round of adopters who's seen what worked, what didn't, and just lean in on the things that I already know are successful in other platforms? Because anytime something new pops up, it's always based off of what worked well on other platforms. So you can kind of just gauge, like, hey, if this worked well over here, let's try this first, and then test and tweak and see what they really like. Because, you know, LinkedIn and Facebook are two totally different platforms with two totally different ideas on how to operate there. But from a core level, it still comes back to the content that you put out, the cadence that you put it out at, and how often you're engaging with the others on that platform. And so the quote that I always use from my mentor before is this: methods are many, principles are few. Methods may vary, but principles never do. So there's a million ways to make $1 million, and there's a million ways to get 1 million views on social media. But at the end of the day, anyone who's ever done those things will tell you the core principles of it were creating content that was for the audience, being consistent with it, and being engaged with the audience of people who are actively engaging with your content, because those are the people that you're trying to build a relationship with. So you have to go back and build relationship, which is kind of where Call the Damn Leads comes into play, because it doesn't matter how many people you have looking at you. If you're not having that conversation, you're not leading them down the next step of the process, what's the point?
It's funny, and that's a great transition, because actually my next question, but I just want to point out, that also I think is very true. I agree that I think it will be different and the same, because I do think the principles will always be the same. And I think understanding that, I think sometimes we get so focused, entrepreneurs in particular get so focused on tactics that they lose sight of the purpose or the reason behind why you're doing what you're doing. If you understand what the overall idea is, you can be nimble and adaptable enough to make sure that you're constantly adjusting with trends and flows of methods. But if you don't understand the principle behind what you're doing, copywriting is a great example of this. You'll see people that will grab various different techniques and throw them into a sales letter, and they don't really know why they're using them. But the idea is, you know, if you read like Influence by Robert Cialdini or whatever, you understand what it is that's behind all of that. So the great copywriters understood that, yeah, there are tactics that you can employ to get these things to work, but they're based on principles. And so the tactics could change if technology changes, if the way we read or consume things changes. But the overall idea of getting an emotional response and all these other things is still going to be universal. And so, but I was about to transition into Call the Damn Leads, so that was a great segue. Anyway, I know it's another philosophy that you live by. It's obviously, you know, the company and the slogan and everything else, but what is that approach exactly, and how has it transformed your approach to sales and customer relations?
Yeah, so the backstory behind Call the Damn Leads is kind of important, because again, I came up as a sales producer. When I was 19, I was, you know, a hustler. I got offered to go work in this insurance agency, and he's like, "Hey man, just come work for me. You can be legit. You'll make real money. You don't have to run the streets anymore. Like, let's build something real." And I said, "Okay, cool. I'll give it a shot, boss." And I went and I sold my absolute butt off in the insurance world. One of the top producers in my market, in my region, always getting awards and being asked to come and speak to other agencies. But I was making $36,000 to $40,000 a year, Brett. And I was like, I don't know. This doesn't feel right. Because I'm watching all these other goofballs online that are making six figures, and they're definitely not smarter than me. Maybe they work harder than me. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing all day. So what the heck am I doing wrong? And I went to the boss and I was like, hey man, I want to make more money. What do I need to do? He said, you just need to be patient. In like 10 years, your name will be on the door. You'll be making money. We're cruising. Just like, go back, call these leads. Let's get to it. Like, I don't want to wait 10 years, man. What? So I went back to my desk and it was like, all right, as a sales guy, what do I need to learn so that I can make more money? If I'm great at sales, well, logically, the next step is, how do I just have more conversations? Okay, well, I can have more conversations, but I want to have conversations with the right people. So I went online and I learned online marketing. I built a sales funnel. I started paying, money out of my own pocket to drive traffic to this thing. And I'm so grateful and blessed that I had a lot of people who offered some insight along the way. I listened to podcasts like this, and I was able to build a funnel that got me 250 leads in a month on $500 ad spend. And I turned that $500 into $2,500 in commission, and I said, holy smokes, what am I like? This is awesome. And I got a couple phone calls from some of the other agents who said, hey man, you just doubled your production. What are you doing, and is it legal? And I was like, well, yeah, guys, it's legal. You know me better than that. I will learn this marketing stuff. I can teach you all these. And they're like, no, I don't want to learn it. How much for you to build it and just set it up for me? $2,500. They're like, yeah, I'm in. Set the money. I made 10 grand in a weekend, Brett. I'd never made 10 grand in my life working 40, 50 hours a week for a month straight. I am in the wrong freaking business. Because I've always called the damn leads. I just knew, like, that's the game. And if I had leads, I'll call them. And so I started building these campaigns, and I ended up building a small marketing company on the side, and I got, half a dozen clients. And the best thing that it was happening was I was getting all of them all these leads, and the worst thing was they wouldn't call them. Because a lot of people, when they start these processes of development, they think, hey, I'm just going to throw some money at it and it's going to solve the problem. I'm not going to have to do any work. I can just, throw the money at it and it'll go away. But that's not how this works. Not at all. So I had one client in particular that I got like 100 leads. He told me it was garbage, asked for a refund, and I just started calling him. And I set a bunch of appointments, got a signed contract on a deal. Like, I'm not even a real estate agent, but for the sake of time, I called the guy back. Say, hey man, I don't know what you're doing over there, but you need to call the damn leads. Here's a refund. Here's this information. Please don't ever call me again. And I went to my marketing buddies and I said, someday I'm going to put call the damn leads on a t-shirt and I'm going to sell it to every company that we know that's in marketing, because everyone knows that this is the thing, that if they just do this, they'd make money. And it was a joke and we laughed and I just, put it off to the side. But I had this idea. I was like, I'm going to trademark this, because at the time, the smart people around me who were making real money were going, we're trademarking this, we're getting these business assets in line, we're doing this, this, and this. And I went, I don't necessarily have $2,000 to trademark this phrase right now, but something tells me I should. So I did. And Brett, I am so dang thankful to this day that I made that decision, because the longer people knew about it, the more they told me it was unprofessional and that it wouldn't work. And when I finally cut that cord and went all in on it and said, no, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, we launched in December of 2023. We've had 3,000 clients in our first 12 months in business. Like, we've helped thousands of people change their life, and I know we're just getting started, because it's just a mantra to do the work. Crush the day, call the damn leads. It's just a mantra to do the work. And for me, what's so fun is that it's truly me and my authentic personal brand. And the more I lean in on it, the more other people go, this is what we've been waiting for. And so, man, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share these stories and to have this time, because someone like you, Brett, gave me the opportunity to tell it. And I know there's someone out there right now listening who has this same kind of idea that they've been waiting for permission to take action on. And this is it. This is your permission slip to go be great, to go do the thing that you know is going to be amazing, because someone like me, who grew up in the streets, barely graduated, was able to write 3 books that went on to become bestsellers, has sold thousands of people, helped, all kinds of stuff across the globe. It's possible, but you got to do the work. Sometimes that means calling the damn leads.
That's awesome. What a great story. So as entrepreneurs, we might be business owners, but at the same time, we're also salespeople, right? We have to sell our vision. We have to sell our products. We have to sell our services. So sales is a huge part of running any business. And in fact, the funny thing is, even if you're an accountant or even if you're an architect or, a management consultant, if you reach partner level, which is, the top in any big firm, it's a sales job. Your job is to bring in new business. That's what you're doing. So sales is inextricable from business, and we're always going to have to be, but some of us are naturally inclined to it, like it, whatever. Some of us really don't. What's your advice for someone who's struggling to stay motivated in that role in what they're doing? So maybe they're not purely a salesperson, maybe they're an entrepreneur, but they don't really like the sales part of what they're doing, and they have a hard time getting themselves up to do it. Do you have any tips for somebody like that?
Yeah, I was, and still to this day consider myself to be very introverted. I don't necessarily like people, kind of like to do my own thing, live in my own world, which is weird for a guy who stands on stage and speaks for a living and does podcasts and very paradoxical. However, I know that oftentimes the sales professionals that I work with and speak to, when they tell me I'm not necessarily a sales guy, or I don't like to be spammy or obnoxious, or I don't want that, label put on me. Perfect. You're not in sales. You're in service. And when you're a servant and you help people solve their problems, guess what? They want to pay you, because the bigger the problem you solve, the more they can go and do with their life. Because I promise you, anyone who's sick right now with something that's unhealable, they would give every dollar they had if you could solve that problem for them. So stop thinking about it from a sales perspective of, hey, I'm going to take advantage of this person, I'm going to sell them something, to I'm going to help them solve a problem in their life. And God willing, if everything goes right, either they're going to pay me for that service, or they're going to tell a whole bunch of other people how amazing it was working with me. And at some point, people will respect me enough to pay me for my time, and I will develop the respect for myself not to give my time to things that I cannot truly serve. And I think if you can live in that mindset, it doesn't matter if you're in a service role or you're in an administrative situation, you are truly serving, which is selling people on doing the thing that they know will get them the result they want. That's all.
It's a great way to look at it. It really is. It's a really good shift in terms of the viewpoint, because I do think a lot of people, when they feel like they even hear the word sales, the guard goes up and they automatically feel as though, no, I don't want to be that person, but in the reality of it is, people love to buy and spend money on stuff that they think will help them. So there's no doubt about that. If we believe enough in our product or our service, we shouldn't be bashful about sharing it with other people and giving them the opportunity to take advantage of it and solve their problems with it. So I appreciate you sharing that as well. So where can people find you, your products, your services? Where can they connect with you?
Brett, the best thing that they can do, if someone listened to this episode, they got some value out of it, and they want to reach out and connect with me, the number one thing they should do is they should share this episode on social media, and they should tag @CallTheDamnLeads. Because A, you've invested 40-ish, 45 minutes with us here today, and if you're at this point in the show, I know that you've learned something and that you're going to go and do something great with it. So if you could share this episode and tag us, it would mean the world, because A, Brett has put a ton of time, energy, and effort to help make this a possibility, so I want him to get the promotion as well. But more importantly, we'll see that tag, and we can follow up with you accordingly, because what's a sales org that doesn't follow up with people that tag them in their stories? After that, if you want to come and check us out, callthedamnleads.com, @CallTheDamnLeads on every different social platform. We are where you are, because we want you to feel comfortable knowing that what makes you great is where we will meet you, so that we can take you where you want to go. So share this episode, tag us, and then go to callthedamnleads.com.
Awesome. Perfect. And thanks for that. And I have one last question that I have to ask, because I think it's important. And I always ask this because I love to get everyone's perspective on it. And that is, what's your number one tip for success as a business owner or an entrepreneur?
Number one tip is to value your time, know what it's worth, and invest it in places where you can have a measurable ROI.
Nice. Very succinct, clear. And you obviously had thought that one through before. So that's excellent. I agree. I mean, I think that's super important. So with that, it's just about time to wrap things up. I want to thank you again, Drewbie, so much for sharing all your insights and great tips with us. Visit callthedamnleads.com to download his book for free and check out his e-commerce store. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, remember, no matter what you want from your business and your life, don't compromise, optimize.